Warner Brothers, the studio behind all the classics.
We rapping now? We rapping?
Oh, because he's wet and he's fire. that's kind of brilliant.
I like to remind myself who I'm playing for, my family. And right now, it's all about Dom.
Now that I can get behind. So Space Jam 2 happened. If you haven't seen the movie yet, this isn't going to be a review exactly, so don't worry too much about spoilers. Though if you click on a video titled "Every DC Comics Reference in Space Jam 2" and don't expect to get spoiled, you're gonna have a bad time. Despite being a sequel to the rather simplistic Looney Tunes Play Basketball movie, this new second Space Jam movie is jam-packed with cameos by basically every conceivably imaginable Warner Brothers property. We got Gremlins, we got Iron Giant, we got Animaniacs, we got Flintstones, we got Scooby-Doo, we got Rick and Morty, we got Clockwork Orange, we got too much! This is too much! Why is this Ready Player One? Stop! Like seriously, LeBron James's face during the algorithm's presentation, that was my face this entire movie. But among all the probably hundreds of characters that appear by the end of this thing, a decent amount of them come from the world of DC Comics. When one of the earliest trailers dropped for this movie, everybody and their grandma felt the need to point out to us here at the Watchtower Database that one of the worlds inside the serververse showed a blimp-inclusive Gotham City, a bright and cheery adjacent metropolis, and by the time we got to another trailer, even the animated Justice League Watchtower. I thought, man, I don't really care to watch this movie. I sure hope that's as far as they go with the animated universe references. It wasn't. So let's scrub through this giant IP advertisement, movie, and see if we can't find all of the DC Easter eggs in Space Jam, A New Legacy. Why is it even called Space Jam? They don't go to or interact with space at all. Cyberspace? The trailers all have Don Cheadle saying, "Welcome to the Space Jam." But he doesn't say that in the movie. Nobody says that. They don't even have the Space Jam song. How do you have a Space Jam movie without the Space Jam song? Oh, and by the end of this video, since you all want to know, we will also be going over how Space Jam 2 does or doesn't work in canon with the DCAU. Or with anything else. The first couple DC things we get are a little mundane, but still worth mentioning. In Sarah Silverman's office, there are posters on her wall for both Aquaman and, as the camera continues panning, Joker. Then shortly after on the WB lot, as LeBron James pulls in for his meeting, another poster can be seen for Teen Titans Go to the Movies. And for just a split second before LeBron's car obscures it, another for The Suicide Squad, with a different Aquaman poster next to that. Next up is Al G. Rhythm's presentation. Can I say for a sec how much of an opportunity this movie passed up by not casting Al Gore in this role? When are we ever going to get another chance for him to play Al Gore Rhythm? The presentation begins with cascading movie and TV posters, including 1989's Batman, the CW's Supergirl, Joker again, Supergirl again, Batman Begins, CW Flash, Batman Returns, the first Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, the Black Lightning Show, Supergirl again, and the 2017 theatrical cut of Justice League. I wonder why they wouldn't show a certain other cut of that movie. The first of several ham-fisted Warner Brothers movie integrations not Al Gore suggests is Batman vs. LeBron. Since every other parody following this is a play on an exact movie or series title, it's reasonable to assume this is supposed to be like Batman vs. Superman, because the only other options I can think of are Batman vs. Robin, Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or The Batman vs. Dracula. I kind of doubt it. Regardless, we get a sort of generic-looking Keaton-esque CG Batman here, fighting a Mr. Freeze armor-clad LeBron James, which looks decently close to his Batman the Animated Series design. And the Danny Elfman Batman theme music plays here as well, which was also used for the animated series intro for similar rooftop punchy time. Once LeBron is pulled into the serververse with his son Dom... Wait, LeBron James's actual youngest son's name isn't Dom, it's Bryce. In fact, none of his family members in this movie are his actual family. And I thought their acting was bad because they were his real wife and kids, but no, these are actors. Did the original Space Jam do this? It did. What? Why? Why aren't their names even the same? This is so weird. This whole movie is supposed to be about real world LeBron James and how important family is, and it's not even his real family. Sorry, that's the only weird thing in this movie, I promise. Once they're pulled into the serververse, and LeBron is forced to put together a team to play basketball against LG because plot, he's sent to the rejects of Toon World, but not before the options cycle past Gotham and Themyscira. Then once cartoonified, he teams up with Bugs Bunny to round up his dream team. His first suggestion is Superman, saying he could have used his help while playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and even going as far as to also write up the Iron Giant as another possibility, calling back to that movie where the Giant looked up to Superman as an inspiration. All that line makes me want to do is just watch Iron Giant again. Man, that was a good movie. But back to this movie. LeBron's fourth pick of the most powerful Warner Brothers characters is Batman. Well, maybe if he had prep time. Who we see later is drafted for his leadership skills. And then we get to the big fish, DC World. From an aerial view, we see the DC Comics logo, plus the Gotham and Metropolis cityscapes and Watchtower from the trailers, all of which includes the police blimps, Bat Signal, and Daily Planet. So now I know there's a CG model of the Justice League Watchtower floating around out there somewhere in the Warner Brothers servers. I'm not talking about the movie, I'm talking about an actual object file. I would like it, please email it to me now. On the ground, we get the Motherlode, all the DCAU specific Easter eggs. First, a bunny-style Batmobile, inside of which are Bugs dressed as Batman and LeBron dressed as Robin. As they drive, they pass a Daily Planet bus, first seen in a close-up in the Superman the Animated Series debut episode arc, Part 2 of The Last Son of Krypton. At the train station, there's a surprisingly both large and random assortment of reused DCAU character models, including Clark Kent from Superman the Animated Series, Commissioner Gordon from Batman the Animated Series, not the New Batman Adventures for some reason, Dick Grayson and Selina Kyle from the New Batman Adventures on the other hand, Perry White, Renee Montoya, Arnold Wesker, aka the Ventriloquist, Jimmy Olsen, and some guy in a hat. I don't know who that guy is. That Farmer Brown? Critters recognition in Space Jam? This is the best part of the movie! As Daffy appears in a Superman costume and hairdo, the John Williams Superman theme music plays. Big missed fan service opportunity not putting him in a Green Lantern costume. Duck Dodgers be damned. And while this train conductor looks pretty Bruce Timm style, I cannot for the life of me find his exact counterpart in any DCAU episode, so if you know, tell me in a comment. Daffy mentions the Justice League penthouse, whatever that means.
Live at the penthouse.
And then we see signs for both Star Labs and LexCorp as the train careens out of control, followed by cameos from Harleen Quinzel, Alfred Pennyworth, Lucius Fox, and a very unimpressed Lois Lane through the cab window. The train's map trajectory labels that it'll pass from Gotham City to Metropolis, where it is now, then to Atlantis, and finally an orphanage. But as the train speeds on, it travels out of Metropolis and into Gotham, where we get a better look at the Bat Signal and blimps, as well as that classic red sky, with batarangs styled after the Dark Knight trilogy sticking out of their cartoon craniums shortly afterward. Then they pass through Atlantis, which doesn't look like any specific version I can think of, though the statue's tridents look a lot like that of DCAU Aquaman. And penultimately is the unmapped Fortress of Solitude, seemingly the Richard Donner universe version, complete with spiky crystal column work and the big dwarf star matter key from the comics. Then the train finally heads toward the orphanage, where we get some little kid drawings of Superman and Batman iconography, and oh Jesus, there are a lot of random DCAU background kids in here. Is that the little girl from Change of Heart? That's an episode of the Zeta Project! Oh my god, Critters and Zeta in Space Oh, no, it's another model from Last Son of Krypton. Denitra Evans, I think was her name. It's okay, we still have Farmer Brown a couple minutes ago. That'll never change. The rest of the kids, luckily, mostly all appeared in the Flash's nightmare sequence from the Justice League episode Only a Dream, except for these two kids playing with toys. Dinosaur Dude is from Comfort and Joy, coincidentally also from an orphanage, and Bus Girl is from well, I don't know where she's from. I looked all over the place, and there's a bunch of other pigtail girl character models, but none of them are exactly this one. I also couldn't find this blonde backwards hat kid or this poofy-haired collared shirt kid because I decided at the last second to try and do this video before someone else beat me to it, and I didn't have enough time. Help me. Wait, the black-haired girl was in Comfort and Joy too. Flash dreamed about her becoming a goblin monster, but he brings her Christmas presents every year? What's really going on here, Wally? Oh, and this curly-haired kid is also totally the Get 'em kid from Secret Society. I love that kid. Lastly, this older girl is in the same design as the girl from JLU's Kid Stuff, who Mordred gifted an entire cow as baby food. She's also suspiciously the same color coordination as Zeta's usual human disguise. Let's just pretend this is a Zeta reference, it'll make us all happier. All these kids appeared in tons of other episodes too, but I stopped looking for them once I found them once, because ain't nobody got time for that. Superman himself is the one to actually stop the train, who'd have guessed, and is joined swiftly by The Flash, Green Lantern John Stewart, Batgirl, and Aquaman, also all in their DCAU designs. Aquaman even has both hands? What is the timeline? These three are Justice League character models, but Superman and Batgirl are from the previous era of designs. Let's just come back to this at the end. And finally, for DC World, we see some Batman the Animated Series police cars down below on the street, and then a very small glimpse of the BTAS Batwing flying through the sky as the Looney Tunes depart. And then there's a way too long sequence of very cringy, very outdated movie parodies. Seriously, I saw a clip of the Matrix scene on YouTube, and I thought I was watching a late 90s American Express ad or something. This shit is nuts. Can Curio or someone do a video on Speedy Gonzalez and Granny's purposeful decision to reside in a world that's explicitly a trans allegory? Clearly this movie was well thought out, and this scene must mean something. Now every one of the Looney Tunes is rounded up, except for Lola Bunny, who apparently is hanging out with Wonder Woman, who apparently isn't part of DC World, or even her own world at all, but just some giant floating comic book. What are the rules? In Wonder Woman book place, we of course get Wonder Woman, who is visually styled after the DCEU Gal Gadot version, but voiced by Rosario Dawson, who voiced Diana in the recently wrapped up New 52 style DC animated movie universe. Or at least most of it. The cover of the comic they enter includes the old 70s era Wonder Woman logo seen in the Linda Carter show, and we get some non-specific Amazons throughout the sequence. Lola begins her trials to the tune of the Hans Zimmer / Junkie XL Wonder Woman theme featured throughout the Snyderverse, and eventually saves Bugs and LeBron from falling into lava by use of the Lasso of Truth. And now that all the Looney Tunes are finally together, it's time for the big basketball game that takes up the entire latter half of the movie and then some. Look, it's going to be more than likely that I miss someone DC related in this ridiculously overstimulatingly large crowd, but I'm gonna try. We got Joaquin Phoenix Joker, or at least a terrible look-alike. We got Penguin from the Adam West 1966 Batman show. There's also 66 versions of Batman and Robin, which honestly feels in rather poor taste. Adam West only died like 4 years ago. As well as 66 Catwoman and Tim Burton's Batman Returns Catwoman, with the Burtonverse Penguin not too far away. I was trying for so long to figure out who this bluish guy behind Al Gore is, and it took me almost the entire basketball hour to realize this is supposed to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. You know, from the one scene where he wore a robe?
It's winter forever here in Gotham.
Burton's Jack Nicholson Joker is here too, next to a handful of aptly marked Penguin goons from the Adam West show. And you can even occasionally see Joker's own goons from the Burton Batman movie in their get-ups from the museum trashing scene. These mimes near Joker might also be representative of the mimes from that movie, but I have no idea. I would sincerely hate to have to be the person in charge of green screen character placement continuity in this film. There's so much to keep track of, I don't even know if they realized they did this Tweety Bird dizziness joke twice. There might be a Snyder Amazon or 2 or 3 in the crowd too, and no, I'm not going to count superheroic Hanna-Barbera characters like Blue Blue Falcon or Space Ghost, because that just opens up a whole can of multiversal worms. I don't even want to get into that right now, but I will get into it sooner than I'd like. Lastly, while the Goon Squad isn't made up of any specific DC Comics characters, besides their powers being pretty derivative of comic book supervillains, there is a team member named Kronos, like the DC bad guy, who can slow down time. Oh, and at one point Lil Rel says, "You see that kid fly? He's like Superman, but with a high top fade." Honestly, I've now watched this entire basketball game twice and scrubbed through it frame by frame once, and I do not care to do so ever again, so if I did miss anybody, that's on you to tell me in the comments below. And that goes for pretty much the whole movie, because that's the end of our DC references. Maybe you are even the person who was in charge of crowd continuity. If that's the case, you probably didn't get paid enough, but tell me if there was some other DC character out there in the infinite mass, and I'll make sure your comment gets pinned, because that's the same as getting more money, right? Okay, last thing I'll talk about is how this movie works with the established rules set by the DC animated universe, because it's pretty confusing and I have a lot of questions. First of all, regarding the DCAU characters in general, like I mentioned before, Aquaman has both his hands, and this grouping is a mixture of different character design eras. Batgirl is here instead of Batman, Green Lantern is in his original haircut, there's a smorgasbord of supporting cast relegated to background cameos in the train sequence when almost none of them usually interact in universe. None of this makes any sense. So my first thought is, well, okay, since we are inside the Warner Brothers servers, maybe these aren't meant to literally be the DCAU characters we know, but the actors, so to speak, who play them in those shows. AKA the same kind of logic we got with the old Cartoon Network City commercial bumpers, or the Toontown of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, both of which had all sorts of Warner Brothers owned characters hanging out on the same street corners and bus stations and restaurants and whatnot, and were real people who lived in that world but played themselves in their respective programs. This approach mostly fits, except that the idea of separate planets per WB franchise kind of contradicts it too. Like, if there's Looney Tunes World, does that mean that's also where the Animaniacs are from? Where is the line drawn between universes? Marvin the Martian comes down to Toon World, but where did he come from? Mars? Is there a Mars hovering near Toon World? Is there a separate Mars hovering near every different server world? Is it the same Mars that the theoretical DC worlds Jean Jones would come from too? And this is just the tip of the question mark iceberg. The "these are just actors" idea still kind of works when you consider that the original Space Jam is shown among Al G's scrolling marquee of Warner Brothers movies in his presentation, therefore it is a movie within Space Jam 2, and therefore Bugs Bunny's remarks about the basketball plot sounding familiar are a little less fourth wall breaking and more a recollection of a movie he acted in. But he and the other Looney Tunes recall the events of the first Space Jam as if they were things that really happened to them, not the least of which include Lola Bunny's base character trait being "she's good at basketball," or the group's excitement at the possibility of Michael Jordan coming to help before the funny joke that it's the wrong Michael Jordan. So does this mean that the Looney Tunes World server planet and the underground undefined cartoonish space they inhabited in Space Jam 1 are the same thing? There's nothing to say that this isn't a computer server. Does traveling down a golf ball hole now count as entering the serververse? Wait, no, Space Jam is a movie, not a real thing that happened in LeBron James's fake family universe that's not even our own real universe. So then are the server worlds like subfolders containing the memory backups of everything that's happened up until this point in each franchise's history? Like the Looney Tunes remember Space Jam 1 because it did happen to them 25 years earlier, as Sylvester disgustingly pointed out to me? If that's the case, then why does the DCAU chronology not line up with the haircut and hook hand? Why is Wonder Woman not a part of this but part of her own separate plane of reality? Do these inconsistencies mean it's a combo of these ideas, where the characters experienced everything they did in shows and movies, but still live within a sort of nebulous computer realm just waiting to be used again? Like Aquaman defeated his half-brother, saved the universe from interdimensional squid monsters, fought the Ultiman, stopped Solomon Grundy, and then was relegated to sit around an indistinct Atlantis stand-in until Warner Brothers needed him again? What about Looney Tunes back in action? They're not living inside a computer server in that movie, they're walking around the WB lot as actors playing themselves in movies. Is Back in Action inside the serververse? That movie even has a quick reference to Space Jam.
This doesn't make a lick of sense.
And at the end of this movie, Bugs and the other Looney Tunes are just in LeBron's world? How? Why? What happened? Maybe since the real world of this movie isn't the real world, where LeBron James is married to a completely different person, these Looney Tunes aren't even the ones we know, but Looney Tunes from a parallel timeline, who both experience their own version of Space Jam 1 and live inside WB's computers. Like, we don't know what happened in the plot of this real world's original Space Jam movie, other than Michael Jordan and Monstars probably being in it. Maybe it was even based in a computer server. We don't know. We'll never know. This will haunt me for the rest of my life. Maybe I'm trying too hard to conform Looney Tunes to any sort of logic and reason whatsoever. Most of you watching probably just went yes and chuckled to yourself. But that's kind of my point here. It doesn't make a lick of sense, and it doesn't have to. No, Space Jam: A New Legacy is not canon to the DC animated universe. It's not canon to anything, or it's canon to everything. It doesn't matter. You were looking for a definite answer, but there isn't one. This isn't an episode of our Will It Canon show, but even if it was, there's really no conclusion to be found here. Characters appear because LOL hilarious Warner Brothers cameo Did You Like It? And that's it. Just a very, very long HBO Max pre-roll YouTube ad that you cannot skip. Or at least, because we make DCAU videos, I couldn't. So with all that, I hope you enjoyed this unsettling train wreck of a video about an unsettling train wreck of a movie. And hey, if you did like Space Jam 2, good for you. I wish I did. I will say the effects are actually extremely impressive, like bafflingly so. I don't want to know how much money they spent making this movie. The first one isn't by any means an amazing motion picture, but the sequel has a 3-star rating on IMDb, and the original has a 6. I'd say the second one is twice as bad is pretty accurate regardless. Thank you for watching, everybody, and thank you to our newest Patreon supporters, L Pineapple, Jay's Reviews, K McKee, JW Fayer, Jensen Hardage, and Christian. I'm sorry we haven't done a Patreon party in a while. Life is pretty crazy right now, especially when the powers that be keep throwing new DCAU content at us like, good luck, ass. So thank you all for sticking around through the chaos. If you liked this video and aren't subscribed yet, we put out new DCAU-centric videos every Sunday, and sometimes other days of the week because there is so much of it right now. So subscribe. That's what I'm trying to say here. I'm going to go take a hot bath and get very drunk. Goodbye.
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got a real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance to your dance at the Space Jam. Alright, alright, alright. Wave your hands in the air if you feel fine. We're gonna take it into overtime. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance to your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
There it is.